Hi there, I'm Nick, I'm autistic and I have ADHD, and I'm about to face one of my biggest challenges ever. Now, if you watch this video here about autism and driving, specifically my problems, you'll maybe have an understanding of what I'm just about to go through or put myself through. Now, my eldest son lives overseas and he's an absolute fitness freak. He's awesome. He flies around the world for fun and runs over mountain ranges. Like, he does ultra marathons. I don't know how he does it, but he loves doing ultra marathons. Now, there's one in Australia next month in the Blue Mountains. Now, I've never been there because that's in population central. It's in New South Wales where, there's Sydney and squillions of people. So it's like, I don't want to go to Sydney. Sydney's just full of humans. The Blue Mountains is outside of Sydney. But, for me, this is a really big deal. Now, he said he'd fly me out there and we could go and stay in a little log cabin in the mountains together. And, I could be there when he had his race. And I thought, oh, this would be fantastic. And we get a bit of hiking and bushwalking in. So I've been really looking forward to that. And then he said, look, did I want to be his support crew? And we looked and there was one place that they could have a support crew. And I looked at it and I thought, well, okay, I can drive from our cottage to the train station in this town. They have regular trains. I can get on the train and go to the town where the race is, and then they have shuttle buses to, that starts and finishes in the one checkpoint. And I've looked it all up and I worked it out. I'm going, yes, I can do this. I agreed. I was really happy. I'm going to do something to support my son. Then we chatted yesterday, and the rules have changed. The route has changed. There are now several checkpoints where support staff are required. Not in one town, but in multiple towns. He said, okay, I'm hiring a car for you, Mum. It'll be great. You can drive around. You can follow me on GPS and get ahead of me and meet me and feed me and give me drink and bring me change of clothes, and then you can hop back in your car and then go driving off through the mountains at whatever blooming time of night it is, depending, and be ready for my next checkpoint. I'm sitting there nodding, going, yay, yay, I really want to support my son. Because the truth is, I really do want to support my son. How on earth I was going to do this, I wasn't sure. But it's really important to me that I do support my son. I mentioned it to my LAC coordinator for NDIS, and she said, well, interstate, yes, you can get a support worker interstate. If you can persuade somebody, an interstate provider, to be there to transport you for a few checkpoints, then yes, you'd be covered for that. So I'm, yay, okay, problem solved, I can do this. And then all the final details of my plan came through and I read them, and, well, between 9 to 5, Monday and Friday, sure. This is a race, a 24-hour race. So, and it takes place on the weekend. Bye-bye that option. Regardless, I decided I was going to write to different NDIS providers over there, send them emails, and also community centres, and just make inquiries about volunteers in the region to see if anybody could help me, support me, pick me up from one town and drive me to different checkpoints and then drop me off. Paid, but be able to do this. I haven't got any response back yet, and from asking on one forum, I don't necessarily expect that I will do. So I had to work out what were my other options. Try and get that feeling of panic and distress out of my mind and go, what is my goal? What do I want to do? What is most important for me? And it is spending time with my son and not letting him down, because I carry the burden of having failed him as a mother in my mind because I was not able to help him through, because of my own difficulties, through some of the struggles he had when he was younger, and I want to make up for this. There's probably all these psychological reasons for that, and I'm not a psychologist, but I want to be the best mum I can be, and I want to share this time with my son, and I want to be his support crew in my little orange hive, his vest. So I started to look into detail about the roads, because I need to prep everything. And I found that there's this whole community of rather odd people who like to drive around in cars with dash cams and film all these roads. Just roads everywhere. They like to film their road trips. And then they put them up on YouTube with nice peaceful music. Once I found this, I thought, well, let's just type in a search there to see whether they have filmed the routes I need to travel on. And lo and behold, they do. Every single road I will need to drive on has been filmed within the last year. So they're reasonably up to date. This was fantastic for me because it means I can sit down and watch these videos however many times I need to. I've already done it several times to familiarise myself with the roads. Now, a lot of these roads are, single lane roads. They are country roads because they are in the mountains. And this is what I'm familiar with, hills and mountains and country roads. So I was thinking, that's all doable. There is one scary patch called the Great Western Highway. That initially was freaking me out. But I've also looked at that, and the sections I would need to drive on don't seem dreadful. The maximum speed is only 80. I have to do a lot more than that round here. And they have traffic lights around. So traffic does stop and you can turn right onto the highway and things like that from the towns that I will need to. So sometimes I will need to turn right from one town onto the highway. Now, I didn't know that I was going to be able to manage that, but there are traffic lights to let you do it. So that seems okay. So from having a total panic 24 hours ago, I'm now going, I think this is theoretically doable. If I watch all these videos over and over again, combining with nice peaceful music and relaxation exercises, I'm going to have all this pre-prepared in my mind. The type of vehicle I would drive was also very important. So I did message my son and asked him, now what vehicle are we driving? You said you were hiring a vehicle and you were putting us both down as drivers. And he said, yes, I know you don't like small cars, Mum, so I'm making sure we're hiring an SUV because I know you're comfortable in SUVs, because I will only ride in SUVs and utilities or trucks, because the bigger, the safer I feel. So he is hiring one that's about the same size as my car so that I can feel comfortable. And then I asked him, I said, well, I've done some research on how I will drive. I need to have practice runs. I know it's going to cut in on our hiking time, but for me to support you, I need certain accommodations in place. That was a hard thing to say to my son, that, this is I have a problem with driving, but, kind of admitting a weakness is difficult. And he's just like, sure, Mum, no worries. Of course we can do test drives, to all the checkpoints. We've got plenty of time to hike, we can do a little bit of light hiking in the morning, but let's go out and do this, and let's go out and do that. Absolutely, we can sort it out. So I'm happy because this is going to be enormous for me, but I think it is doable. It's going to take some hard, very, very, very hard work with the watching the videos and talking myself through things and planning music, and then maybe play this music whilst I'm actually driving, so at the time, so it is all going to be familiar and in practiced and rehearsed, and that's all makes it possible. And I thought, because there is like a dual lane road, the Great Western Highway does have some dual lane bits. There are dual lane roads within 40 kilometres of where I live, and I thought that I should practice on those sometimes. So my plan is to get in my car and drive to one town and get on the highway, and then drive to the next town and then get back on the country road and come back home and do a little triangle, and then practice that sort of thing a few times between now and when the race is on. That way I will be more familiar with driving under those conditions. And I will even have to practice it at night. I know that, and I know this is also going to be a challenge, so I might have to wait till my friend comes up to visit and say, could you please be a passenger for me while I practice doing it at night time? I want to do this. I know it's going to be incredibly difficult for me, but I want to do this. So if anybody's got any tips for me, I'd really appreciate that. Thanks for your time. Be well.